first.
Obrigado. Bom, prazer aqui estar com
Thank you. It's
vocês.
such a
Bom dia a
pleasure to be
todos.
with you.
Obrigado aí, Nardoni
Thank
e
you,
Christopher,
Nardoni
também
and
por compartilhar
Christopher,
e estar
for
junto aqui.
sharing
Acho que a
and for
temática aqui
being
que a
with
gente
us
tem
today.
nesse painel aqui
The
é,
topic
a questão
we are going to
macroeconômica
talk
global
today, it's the
e o impacto que
global
isso traz em
macroeconomic
termos de
scenario and
inteligência artificial
perspectives
para
of
o
using
mercado
AI in the
financeiro.
financial
Acho que
market.
a ideia aqui é a gente poder
The purpose is
debater
to
junto com o
talk,
Nardoni
to
e com o
exchange
Christopher
ideas with
os
Nardoni
impactos,
and
né,
Christopher, the
sociopolíticos e macroeconômicos
socio-macroeconomical
e como isso vem
impacts and
transformando
how that has
o
been
mercado financeiro,
changing the
principalmente
financial
no
market,
conceito de
especially
inteligência artificial.
with the concept of AI.
Então acho que essa é um pouco a temática e óbvio que aqui traz a
And
questão dos
of course,
desafios
we
e
also talk
oportunidades
about the challenges
que
and
isso gera
opportunities
para a
that
indústria.
these things
Eu acho
bring
que para
to the
começar aqui,
industry.
né, para aquecer os motores, uma pergunta
To start with,
tanto para o
we
Nardoni
have a
quanto para o
question both
Christopher.
for
A gente pode
Christopher
começar
and
com você,
Nardoni. We can
Nardoni.
start with you, Nardoni.
Bom, a gente sabe que o Brasil ele é uma
We know
referência de
that
Open
Brazil
Finance, né,
is a
do
reference
ponto
for
de vista
open
global,
finance
obviamente. O PIX,
in the global
acho que é o grande
politics
nome que se
policies.
traz em relação
The
a isso.
PIX, the instant
Como você
payment, is a
enxerga
reference. And so
essa
what do
questão
you think
do avanço
about this matter of
tecnológico e da
technological
modernização
advance
do Brasil
and
frente
modernization that Brazil has gone through when we compare to other markets? Good morning, Christopher. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Hello, thank you for coming. I'm going to bring another acronym to talk about open finance and the technology that you've brought, that PIX. There is an old man that is quite old, but it still works. It's SBP. I'm going to call the advent of the SBP. The Brazilian financial market took a giant leap because now we compare it with the global market. So my view today is Brazil is a reference in advance in the financial market. We are a benchmark for many markets. For whoever travels, it's easy to understand what I'm talking about, like payment through a credit card or transferring resources, how easy that is to connect and how connected we are. With technology at the core has been speeding up all changes, so it's the democratization of access to financial market, financial education, relationship between people and money, and even the competition, because we have many fintechs. Our market is very rich in entrepreneurship and with people who try to find new solutions through technology. At the end of the day, that means acceleration, customer experience in the use of the financial market. And B3 is in the eye of this good storm, so to say. So you may know about B3, about like a stock broker, but we have in the national systems of stock. But anyway, B3 is part of this digital transformation in the financial market in Brazil, that it's a global reference, in my view. Okay, absolutely. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, to be cited by Nardoni and you, Antonio. I think it's reasonable to say, and it's crystal clear, that we are facing a huge wave of digital transformation that is going to speed things up in the coming years. So these moments that we see in the fintech companies, they are accelerating all transactions that might bring impact for the private sector. The good news is, I second what Nardoni mentioned. If we have a global company, so we have the whole private sector, and in Brazil has been using these technologies. There is a whole ecosystem of innovation and also adoption of new technologies in the private sector that is also relevant when we compare to other countries and emerging countries. So by adopting this technology, especially the financial market, is well placed. Excellent. As Nardoni mentioned, and people talk about that, about like financial education and teaching about the market, I think with AI, we've seen a very strong move. And the next question aligned with AI, going along with AI in the financial sector, we see that that requires investment in technology, but not only that, in training new talents. I think the greatest question is how can large institutions in the financial market, how can they participate to train and retain new talents in a world that is ever changing? So I would like to learn about your ideas and B3's too. There's a lot of talk about preparing data, structuring data, using these technologies so that AI can be used the best way possible, which I totally agree. But there is a whole discussion that I think is crucial, and the main discussion is about people. In the first moment, like contact with technology to understand how it works, to understand its full potential. So we have the first role of institutions. How can we foster this use? How can we encourage people and to provide access to this technology? I can even go beyond thinking about government and going beyond the companies. Even public policies that this knowledge can spread in society. And coming back to the large corporations, the first step, like offering proper conditions so that people can learn and access technology. The second step is how can I bring this knowledge to people? So training, understanding what the technology is. That doesn't happen only at B3, but in the first moment people got scared. AI is it going to take my job? So what is that? Should I use it or should I resist to change? It brings concerns. It generates some kind of introspection. So thinking about AI is not going to replace anybody. It's an accelerator of productivity. It's a tool that provides proper conditions to do things that we didn't used to do. Because we have a broader vision of processes, of knowledge about business, about behavior of our customers that we didn't have before. Because the way we are. And now with AI and with computer power, we can go beyond that. We can bring this knowledge to people, because in here you can elevate that and you can encourage people to adopt that tool and understand, of course, the risks. But again, fostering and encouraging to use, that's the next step. And there is a major concern as well. How can we foster use, and how can we train people, and how we can encourage and to have the reward because we adopted this technology. So I believe that maybe this is just like a quick recipe to have people at the core of transition, because without that, technology is empty. Technology alone does not do anything. We need human beings for that. So I think it was very fortunate for whoever thought about the word co-pilot, because that's the thing. It's the co-pilot. It's a cooperation thing. And I'm very happy to see humans and AI. It's like dancing the waltz. You have to dance together. You must have like some kind of synergy, because otherwise things won't happen. So the humans will not do anything alone, neither will technology. So both of them together will. Yes, I like when we talk about training new talents and the impact in the educational system, not only in Brazil. We know that we go through discrepancies, but there is always the question, so we have to acknowledge this. Okay, now going to asking Christopher about global content. So we see this tariff war between the United States and China, and of course that generates impact in Brazil, in its relations with these two countries. So speaking of technology, from the technological point of view. What do you think about that? Do you think like dangers, threats, or opportunities for Brazil? So what pact can we envision or forecast in the future? I think that's a wide question, and it's at the core of the geopolitical dispute between the United States and China. The technological aspect, it's at the core of this fight, at this war, let's say. We can look at the current scenario, everything about this tariff war between like the US, allies, and China. And we are seeing like the first draft of an agreement. We clearly see two economies that are intimately connected, with full capacity of causing harm to one another. And last night they had the first draft of having like the first agreement to avoid each one of them like falling into the cliff. So we don't see an agreement between the US and China, but at the same time, this is a new scenario. Trump government is committed to restructure the country, so we're not going back to normal as we were before Trump. We will see like a higher level, either doubling or tripling, that will be applied because of China, and the average of the American tariffs will increase. And that suggests like a more recessive environment and a global economic growth a little bit, smaller, because we can avoid an economic catastrophe. But coming out a little bit of this tariff thing, we have to acknowledge when we look at the competition between the US and China, we see signs that that's going to get stronger in the coming years. There's a vision in Washington that China took advantage of those tariffs. They transferred technology legally and illegally ways. They took over the rules now, and they put the US in a situation of national security that it's not advantageous. And what the US is showing today is an industrial policy to restrict the technological capacity in China.
So it sees the U.S. as a compromised country to contain them geopolitically. There is no vision on the cooperation coming from the U.S. And they are trying to reduce their dependence, mutual dependence. And we also have the self-integration. At the same time, we also see a disposition in Washington to use economic sanctions that can grow heavier and heavier in this competition. So in this first round of the Trump administration, which is a disastrous administration, we see that this competition with the diagnosis that there is national security and competition for technology will be deepened over the years. And what will happen in Brazil? This is a great opportunity for us, which also brings many risks, because Brazil is well positioned in this geopolitical competitive scenario. China, in its search for reducing its dependence, is seeing Brazil as a partner. So Xi Jinping, for example, visited us last year in order to look for more investments and partnerships. We're also part of the BRICS group. We also see more and more Chinese investors coming to Brazil. At the same time, the European Union sees Brazil as a strategic partner. There might be an agreement between Mercosur and them soon in the future, but tough decisions will come to the private sector for sure, because if the American government is going to reduce the access to the American market and reduce the Chinese participation in this market, maybe Brazil will not be able to limp between two opinions. Maybe we will receive Chinese financing and we might have access to the American technology and markets. We do not know. Well, but our government wants to deal with everyone. We want to have this tactical relationship with the US, China, and other countries. The private sector will have to make the tough corporate decisions, because Washington's decisions will be more and more costly. So yes, there might be a risk, because the strategy is limping on two different opinions. So it would be different to find the to find a strategic decision, and we are at the center of this debate. And as you said, last year we were at a meeting, visiting a company. I do not have to mention names here, but the CTO of this company said that he had a big trouble in migrating to clouds, and we wanted to know why they wanted to keep their data center. Okay, I'm Hong Kong and I want to migrate to American cloud. How can I do that? But if I move to a Chinese cloud, I will have some problems with my clients because they do not want to migrate their data to a Chinese environment. So this geopolitical trouble will also impact the companies technologically. We also perceive that this is the time for companies to make this strategic planning for the next 5 years, assuming that the Americans' restrictions and constraints will increase over the next years. Maybe we do not want to be positioned in China and being sanctioned by the US and vice versa. So these things will actually be stronger as the time goes by. And as you were saying that, another thing crossed my mind, the impact of AI in a more intense manner. And this is not part of our script, of course, but I think that the question is worth asking. The use of AI, the way as it is, does it increase or decrease the impact on the capacity building of these employees? Because when it comes to the use of it in Brazil and other countries, we know that these low education levels might lead to an AI replacement. So this whole global scenario, well, what type of impact do we see in terms of socio-economic and socio-political aspects? Well, we are analyzing this now, the political impact on this. I encompass this geopolitical competition between the US and China, and they are even, for example, in the search for inputs, energy for their data centers, technology, semiconductor technology. So we have this whole competition on this sovereignty and supremacy when it comes to AI, and these are big powers, and there will be also a social impact in terms of impact at first on the job replacement of some positions, but if the horizon needs to be analyzed in a larger period, of course there will be some impact on the job market. Some positions will be less valued, and there might be some social impact when it comes to employability. Some layers will be more impacted, and if we have this displacement in the job market, of course there will be a political reaction to it. There will be some resistance in certain sectors because they will lose some jobs, and there might be some resistance to the adoption of certain technologies in order to protect the current jobs. So this disruption will come, and there might be some popular initiatives against the adoption of AI in order to avoid these social displacements that there might be. So this is a very deep impact, and this will be this will be relative to every country, because we see that this populism wave, which is going against the AI, well, this is about to hit us. And we also might be in the face of conventional wars and the capacity building of not well-meaning actors in this process. So yes, these are risks. So these AI-related impacts can affect different layers, but this social impact has not come yet. And now, Nardoni, of course, B3 is a global reference because it's one of the biggest stock markets in the world, and in the local market, this is a reference when it comes to innovation technology. Could you please share with us some examples of yours when it comes to technology and innovation in recent times, and when it comes to AI? I think that it would be important if you could touch on that as well. Before talking about AI, it's important to mention that B3 is like a technology company because we are delivering at the end just financial services. And this is a company that by nature constantly invests in technology. And we want to deliver to the market the best solutions because our ambition is to be the platform that accelerates the growth of our clients the most. So, in order to achieve that, we need to have cutting-edge technology and bring the best that you have to this technology world. We are in sync with all novelties we see and launches, how other stock markets are dealing with that, and also this data universe, how they are dealing with these pillars, strategic pillars for B3. We also wanted to develop these added value products. That's why we acquired the Neo and Neurotech division so that we can give the market solutions that are important to clients using data and information systems. And this whole care and investment is translated into results at the end. For example, something that we have already been mentioning is our negotiation systems now has raises to 240 microseconds. How can we do that? No, it's not only about having a bigger computers, it's also having this binary protocol and how we can streamline the whole pathway this order goes through in our system. I do not want to go very technical on that, but there are other types of technologies that will make our processing faster and will also serve our clients better, and also we can adequate the sophistication that we offer to our market. So it's also important to mention that our AI program started in 2023. And let me tell you a detail. This is a Gen AI program. Machine learning is nothing new to us. The financial market is familiar with that, and we've been using that for years and decades in order to do risk management or fraud prevention. And the advent of Gen AI in 2023, by the end of 2022 also, because we had the democratization of the access to Gen AI. So then we started to bring this to our institution by creating the foundation and caring for people. We prepared people in order to use it. We also created this excellence center so that we could boost the use of AI. And Milton also asked us to give him a helmet for that. And now I could understand what he meant. And we lose the focus, of course. So we care for people and then create this excellence center so as to create some solutions using AI and understand what that means, the risks, the potentials, and what the Gen AI really means, and how we can do that in a more adequate manner. And here we see that there is quite a big number of initiatives in legal departments, in HR, in software engineering, in other areas. Actually, Gen AI is also very much applied in tasks, in engineering. And we also had to decentralize this. Now we have the supporting team, and also the responsibility belongs to each one of us. So AI, at the end, will be like the use of Excel. Everybody must know how to use it nowadays. And AI is very specific to products and services that we might offer, but there are also some daily use features as well. For your own routine, what you do in your daily life. Ask yourselves, how can AI help you do better what you already do? So this is the pathway that we followed and that we have been using in order to escalate the use of AI. So what are the benefits of using this at the end? What are the risks that come along with the use of Gen AI? When it comes to Gen AI, as we were mentioning before, we know what we already have, and we know that there are many more things to be seen. But at the B3, for example, Nardoni also mentioned that there are many things that can be seen today. We also have the hyper-personification of our investments so that we can have this portfolio budgeting with macroeconomic data and everything. And also when it comes to fraud prevention, or especially when it comes to fraud prevention, we also can do especially those programs that are already using AI can help us in this regard. There is a website hosted by B3 called Bot Investir. There are much content about education, and we also have the chat available on this website. And this chat is already using Gen AI in order to personalize the answers given, and looking at production in our cutting-edge products, we have a series of options using Gen AI. And why is that important? Because depending on how our assets will oscillate over the day, clients would have to ask us and say, okay, I need a series with this expiry date, and that would generate a lot of work. And now the AI sees this pathway and trend and suggests the creation of a series of options depending on the volatility of this role. Clients don't have to call us because we have already this analyzer analyzing all these trends. And this operational work and the anticipation of their needs, they are very important to us now. So this is part of our job, actually. Very good. Christopher, please. Now, shifting to another subject, for every big topic and frameworks, we need to talk about the regulatory aspects as well. And this is not different in our case. Every advancement is necessary. We need to follow the same pathway. And as the last question of this panel, we know that the main legal framework for AI came from Europe, the AI Act, which is dated from 2024 and is gradually being adopted up to 2026. So the question is, Europe has spearheaded this AI regulation field. On the other hand, it has been pressured by big techs in order to flexibilize these acts. And looking at this scenario and comparing this to the Brazilian market, what do you think that is the pathway that we need to follow when it comes to regulations and frameworks in the future? Well, regulating AI has not only become a hot topic, but it will also be deepened as a discussion in the future. These political agents and regulatory agents will have to deal with this dilemma. How can we take advantage of technology, new technologies with this innovation? Because we see that there is great potential in that. Some countries that are not adopting these technologies will be left behind when it comes to economy and productivity. But of course, some risks will come along in terms of data and consumer rights and risks and impacts on abuse of these technologies. And this trade-off, of course, in the European Union, they started to with this very costly legal framework by classifying risks and focusing on consumers and focusing not that much on innovation. This is one of the criticisms that we can find when it comes to big techs and also the communication of these new rules. And this AI regulation project that has been passed by the Senate and that is now about to be approved by our deputies could also mirror what we saw in Europe. So this first draft or this first bill that we wrote, it is also helping us to have this constraint against the damages and losses, and it's not actually focusing on the innovation we can acquire. Of course, the Chamber of Deputies will find a balance because the deputies have this pro-tech vision. We do not actually know whether this will be approved before the elections that we have next year. We know that the approval is not an easy thing, but I actually feel that the Brazilian government Under this current government, we see that the AI is an opportunity, and this is gaining momentum in these last 12 months. A year ago, I felt that the government in the Congress, I thought that they were a bit resistant to that. And now we can see a glimpse of the bigger opportunities. And the Ministry of Finances, when he visited California, he made it very clear, and we also have a new tax incentives to build data centers. We also see that our vision has changed a little bit, and the Senate is discussing this and also decreased a little bit the zeal that we have for this regulation. But the risk for Brazil is to focus on excessive regulation rather than taking advantage of these opportunities that can be granted us. We also need to recognize that the capacity of regulators in order to put this regulation in the context of technological improvement, which is advancing exponentially year after year. Of course, technology will not keep pace with all the advancements. So the political skills of regulating these AI is actually a huge AI, but for an emerging market such as Brazil, which is a country full of economic challenges, I would not try to have this excessive regulation on AI, otherwise we might be left behind. Well, our time is short now. We are right on time, actually. Okay, once again, I would like to thank you, Nardoni and Christopher. We had a very nice discussion. You are references in our market here in Brazil when it comes to this topic. So thank you so much, everyone. I wish you have a great event and a great day. Thank you so much.